Good morning. Welcome to First Tuesdays. First Tuesdays is a monthly webinar offered by the Washington State Library, and we're really glad you decided to join us this morning. I have a bit of business to attend to before I turn you over to our presenters today. First off, I am your facilitator. My name is Tammy Masonheimer, and this is my contact information. Today we also have Jeremy Stroud for technical support. And Jeremy, can you go ahead and put your contact information into the chat in case someone needs your help? And also let you know we will be recording this webinar today, and it will be posted in the Washington State Library training page if you want to have some coworkers look at it afterwards. First Tuesdays are brought to you by the Washington State Library, and we are part of the Office of Secretary of State. Our funder is the Institute of Museum and Library Services through the LSTA Act. And as a requirement of our funding, we are asking that you take a short 4-question survey that will appear when you close the window at the end of the presentation today. And it's important information that we include in our annual report to continue funding for trainings such as this. And we thank you in advance for your feedback. Today we have a great presentation, and I want to thank Kathy Dempsey and John Buehler and Jennifer Trammell for taking the time today to present and talk about delivering value to your community through your library's electronic resources, with an emphasis on our new offering from Washington State Library, which is NewsBank. And they'll be taking questions that you may have. You enter them into chat and they will be answering them at any time through the presentation. So our presenters today are Kathy Dempsey, and Kathy is the author of The Accidental Library Marketer and founder of marketing consultancy Libraries Are Essential. John Buehler is the Chief Marketing Officer for NewsBank, and he's focused on helping libraries to realize the value of news and information. And Jen is a Senior Director of Community Relations for NewsBank, and she's helping libraries with their fundraising and community engagement initiatives. So without any further ado, Jennifer, go ahead and take it away.
Sounds good. Thank you, Tammy. Let me go ahead and get our slides started here. Well, we are so glad to be with you today. Thank you for having us. And let me just say what a fantastic team you have at Washington State Library. Jeremy and Tammy have been a pleasure to work with, and this training that they put on monthly is a tremendous resource for librarians across the state. So thank you for inviting us to be part of that. This is Jennifer Trammell with the NewsBank team. We have a bi-coastal group with us today. Jen and John are here in Naples, Florida at NewsBank's headquarters. Kathy's up in New Jersey, and of course, all of you out in Washington State. So here's a rundown of what you can expect in the next hour based on our culmination of learning from working with libraries across Washington and around the world. We'll be having a discussion about how to maximize the use of your electronic resources and really get the most out of your library's investment. You can expect to walk away with best practices for marketing your online resources, with actionable tips for how to get started, examples of how other libraries are promoting their collections to their communities, and you'll have an idea of the types of resources available to you for your marketing efforts from vendors like NewsBank. So if that sounds good, we'll go ahead and get started. Here's a look at us so you know who you're hearing from. Kathy, of course, the author of The Accidental Library Marketer, John Buehler, our Chief Marketing Officer, and me, Jennifer Trammell. I'm a former news anchor and reporter, and one of my passions is making sure that communities around the world have access to trusted, credible information. I think that's absolutely essential for democracy. Here at NewsBank, one of my favorite things to do is use my journalism, communication, and marketing skills to help libraries create and execute fundraising campaigns that achieve their own strategic vision. So let's hear a little bit more about our library friend, Kathy Dempsey. Kathy's name may be familiar to you, and you may have visited her marketing consultancy before at librariesareessential.com. Kathy's work is dedicated to helping librarians and information professionals promote their value and expertise in order to gain both respect and funding. That's why we thought she was absolutely the perfect partner to learn from today. This writer, editor, and marketing maven continues to fight the stereotypes that librarians are boring and that marketing is a dirty word. And Kathy, we are certainly with you on that mission. So welcome to today's First Tuesdays webinar. Kathy, I'm going to hand control over to you.
Okay, great. Well, good morning, everyone. Good morning from the other side of the country. I am so happy to be here with you, and it's funny, Jennifer and I have a number of things in common. She already mentioned the passion for libraries, which I have in spades, and I also have a journalism degree, and I have been using that to write articles and to edit publications to help librarians learn more about library tech and marketing and all that great important stuff. So let's, whoops, see, I'm so excited. I went through 2 slides at once. Okay, there we go. All right. I talk to a lot of people who think, oh yes, I guess I should do more marketing for my library, but we have to do this and that and the other things and the budgets and the annual reports and the cataloging. And I totally understand all that. However, I like to remind people that if you are not marketing your library, if you're not promoting what you have, then they are not able to benefit from all that goodness that your library has. And so one of the things I say to people, especially when they talk about collections, oh, our collection is so great and we have this and we have that, but if you don't tell anyone that you have it, they're not going to use it. And so I like to make the point that when you're spending thousands and tens of thousands of dollars on collections, but then spending no money to tell people what you have and how it can benefit them, your collections are often sitting there unused. And I know that those of you who ever look at your usage statistics will sometimes be, I don't want to say upset, but maybe, but you'll be disappointed that you have spent all this time curating and gathering all these wonderful resources together only to see them go unused. And don't worry any longer. I am here to help you with that. One of the main points I want to make is don't promote the actual items that you have bought, because most product names don't tell people what the product is. For instance, and I'm not slamming any products or companies or vendors here at all, but think about one of the most popular names that librarians know, EBSCO. Okay, if you're a layman and you're looking for information, what the heck is an EBSCO? Is that going to be helpful to you? Is that useful? I don't know. Because it's kind of not really a word. But at any rate, something like NewsBank at least gives you a clue. Hey, this is a bank of news. This is a collection of news. But so many library products and services have names that might make sense to librarians, but definitely do not make sense to users or potential users. So you don't want to promote the actual items. You want to promote the benefits of those items. What will users get from that? How will they feel? How will they be able to do their work better? How will they perhaps get better grades on the papers that they're writing? What's in it for them? Hopefully some of you know the acronym WIFM, which stands for What's in it for me? And that's exactly what users and potential users want to know. So you need to give them the WIFM, what's in it for them, instead of saying we have this product and we have that product. Tell people how the library can make their lives better. That's one way to make sure that your marketing message really resonates with the people that you're talking with. Another way to do this is by telling stories. And if anyone has talked about marketing at all in the past 5 years or so, you probably hear people like me telling you to concentrate on stories, tell people stories. And of course, we don't mean story time. We mean, again, going back to WIFM. What benefits have people gotten from using your collections? You may want to, you don't want to say, we have this great set of encyclopedias, because of course you do. But you may want to say, we have tools that will help you find information faster, finish your term paper sooner, get better grades on your assignments, know more than your neighbors. Whatever is important to the people in your community, that's what you want to talk about. And those stories can be as simple as, one of our librarians was helping a young person last week who was about to change the topic of his paper because he really wanted to write about that topic, but he couldn't find anything. Our librarian stepped in and said, oh, let me show you this tool and that tool. These will give you specific information about that topic. Boy was happy, boy wrote paper, boy got a good grade and came in 2 weeks later to thank the librarian. That's the type of story I'm talking about. You want to talk about how the library has improved people's lives, given them comfort, confidence, maybe help them find a job, that sort of thing. At the bottom of this slide, I have a link to the I Love Libraries site. And they have a place where you can share your stories with others, and you can also see stories that others have shared. So hopefully that will give you some inspiration and ideas to get started with. Okay, one other main point of marketing that I always share with everyone is try not to be too general. I know that libraries have so much goodness, and it's hard to have 50 marketing messages for 50 different groups about 50 different items. But in my fantasy world, that's what all librarians have time to do. At the very least, you want to do some targeted marketing. You don't want to say put one message out to everyone and say, we have everything for all of you that you could ever want. Because to us, that may sound really great and exciting, but to laymen, that can sound really intimidating sometimes. To say the library has everything translates to, how will I find the one little thing that I need? And remember, a lot of people don't like to ask for help. It makes them feel like they don't know as much as they want to. Especially adults are often uncomfortable asking. So the best thing that you can do is start out with a customized message. Certain message that will appeal to a certain group. You want to tell the story about the young boy who got help writing his paper to other young people in school or to their parents. You probably don't want to tell that story to the senior citizen patrons, because they probably are not still writing papers, although you never know. They could be taking online classes. But the point is, everyone wonders, how can I get people's attention? There's so many marketing messages out there. And we're just pummeled with them every day, no matter where we go, whether we're online, offline, in print, at your doctor's office. When you step on the scale, there's a message about a weight loss drug, pasted onto the scale where you're standing. It gets a little overwhelming. But here's the trick to getting people's attention at the right time with your message, is to target it as closely as you can. Only tell people, a certain group of people who you have called your target market, tell them only what they want to need. Only what they want to know. Not everything for everybody, but we have homework help just for you. We have a news archive just for this group. we have programs and classes just for that group. So you can get really deep into segmenting if you want to, but even if you don't have time to do that much study and that much separation of messages, do as much as you can, and it will definitely make a difference. Okay, so to help you understand very quickly the difference between talking about products and their benefits, I have some examples here on this slide. For instance, don't say, we've added 25 new books, because really, so what? What books are they? None of them will probably appeal to me. Why should I listen to that general message? What's more exciting is say, oh, are you bored? Stimulate your brain and your kids' brains with all these new books. So you see, one is saying, yeah, we have books, ho hum. The other is saying, are you bored? We have something to stimulate your brain, which for most people, hopefully, is a more exciting message. And you can see the other ones here too. And I want to point out especially the one on the bottom, especially when you're talking about collection development, and you as the library staffers get really excited. We have a collection of 58,000 books, which you think is great. But to non-librarians, 58,000 books is just completely overwhelming. I mean, yeah, sure, there's probably some in there I would like, but where are they and how do I find them? And, should I care about your 58,000 books? The better message is, we will help you find a book that you'll love. Okay, so hopefully that makes sense now. Everyone wants to do marketing on social media because it's kind of free, except of course for all your time and effort. But I wanted to share a specific social media case study here that I think you'll like, and especially because Valentine's Day is coming up, everyone wants to use social media to help people love the library. And in Marketing Library Services newsletter, which I edit, about a year ago, I had a great article from someone who specifically did a library love campaign. They invited people who followed their social media to say what was great about the library. And they got really some excellent feedback and some quotes that they could use, and then they went on and used them in a later social media campaign. They could use them for posters and quotes and things around the library and for all sorts of things. So if you have a few minutes, go ahead and check out this case study. The link is there to marketinglibraryservices.com, and you'll just need to go to the November-December 2017 issue. The last quick thing that I'll say about social media is, while you want to make it about the library, you want to say how great the library is, that's a pitfall that many, many people fall into. You want to make it about the people, not about the library. And again, this goes right back to, don't talk about what you have, talk about how it benefits the people who are using it. And if you're not using it, why not? Look at everything you're missing.
Hey,
So
Kathy, before you move off of social media, could we put in 2 quick points here?
Sure.
I just wanted to let you know, first of all, that since you have control of the screen, I can't see the chat box right now. So if you're keeping an eye on questions, or we can take a look at those at the end of the section, either way, or if Tammy wants to jump in. And then the second thing, I'm looking at this great example of a social media post here with the colorful background and the hearts. And I want to make sure that people know about some free resources to help them create social media posts like this. One thing that we really like is canva.com, C-A-N-V-A. So you too can make posts like this with graphics and text art.
Yeah, that's great. I hear a lot of people use Canva for backgrounds and things to perk up their posts quite a lot. And Canva can also make posters and other things that you want to design too. So always a great recommendation. I am keeping an eye on the chat. I don't have any questions yet, but anyone is welcome to post anything in the chat. All of you listeners out there, we're here to serve you this morning. So any question that you have that comes up along the way, please go ahead and type it into the chat. And if we don't answer it at that exact moment, I promise that we will get to it. Okay, so let's go back here. Oh, again, there we go. Okay, one slide at a time, Kath. I'm way too excited about what I'm doing here. In-house promotion. This is something that most people are familiar with, but if you're promoting databases and other electronic resources, you know, they're kind of invisible. So it's a little trickier to promote them. How do you put a picture of that somewhere? How do you talk to people about it? How do you visually represent without just putting up a logo, which may include a product name, which may not make sense to the people you're trying to reach? So of course, I have a picture here of some shelf talkers. They're pretty basic things. The little plastic or acrylic pieces that you can slide paper into and stick them on your shelves and put them in a place that represents the same topic. That if you want to promote NewsBank, or if you want to promote tutor.com or any other database or electronic offering, go ahead and put them in the section of the books that people may be scanning, because there are still people who are uncomfortable with the electronic card catalog and who cry out for the paper catalog that let them kind of browse a topic. If they make their way into the stacks and are looking in the area of that topic, here's a great way to get their attention for other items that aren't physically on the shelf. Other things that you want to do are you can use current events to promote your resources. This is very easy and quick to do on social media. You can make a post in a few minutes. And you see this often too in displays in libraries where, you know, of course, if an election is coming up, you will see displays of books about presidents or vice presidents or elections or candidates or anything related to that. So not only displays, but also on social media, you can promote current events. You can tie in with movies. A lot of libraries like to do that when a movie is produced that was originally a book. They say, oh yes, of course, we have this book. And, you know, a lot of people like to use the iceberg image where there's a little tiny bit of an iceberg sticking out above the water representing the movie, but then magically somehow you can also see below the water where a giant chunk of the iceberg is there representing the book. So there are lots of ways that you can tie into this invisible resource. Also, on your home screens, I don't know if many of you really use your home screens on your public access computers. Oftentimes, they'll just have your library name and logo. But that is some really valuable real estate where you can put a slideshow to promote all sorts of things that the library does, not only databases, but also programs coming up, events that you're having, opening and closing dates, holiday hours, all of that. So especially for libraries that have a large bank of computers or several banks sitting in different areas or on different floors, use that real estate for promotion. It's free, it's easy, it's right there. But when you do that, one of the other things I tell everyone every time I speak is to avoid library lingo. Just like the names of products that aren't intuitive to people, even words like collections and resources and databases don't make sense to a lot of laymen. So you'll want to use the words that they use, run it by your family or friends, make sure that you get all the lingo out of your messages and your promotion as much as possible. I have to put a quick weather slide in here because it's January and it's cold in a lot of areas, except of course if you happen to be in Naples, Florida, not that I'm jealous or anything of NewsBank, but if you're in a cold area, that's actually a great opportunity to promote all of your online resources because people don't have to leave home in the bad weather to get to the library. And a lot of people really don't realize, even people that come in all the time and are physically in your spaces, often don't realize how much they can do by logging in from home. So this is a great opportunity for promotion, and capital area district libraries in Michigan, where they have some mighty bad weather sometimes, does a really good job at this. You can see how they tied in the promotion here, telling people to get their digital downloads from their own couches. One of the other things I learned from capital area district libraries is that you can buy ads on the bottom of the Weather Channel app. And there are a lot of apps apparently from big brands or big companies where you can buy an ad in their app. And just as you can do with Facebook, you can determine when those ads are seen and who sees them. You can say, okay, everyone in this zip code, when snow is in the forecast, this ad will run, this will be the pop-up ad on the bottom of the screen at X time of day, which is an amazing way to get people to still use the library in bad weather without coming out and putting themselves and others at risk. So there's also another link here to an article from Marketing Library Services written by the marketing master at CADL. And he talks all about how he has even worked with television personalities and the weather people at TV stations to get them to mention the library on the air and be advocates for library usage, which is amazingly wonderful stuff. So I encourage you to check that out as well. Now, as if all that wasn't exciting enough, I'm going to tell you about a secret weapon. It's so important to put your promotional messages where the people are. And unfortunately, we know now from studies done by OCLC and others that very few people start searching for information on a library website. And where do they start? Google. Of course they do, because it's Google. You can put advertisements on Google, of course, but they aren't necessarily lost within everything else. You probably are familiar with the term SEO, search engine optimization, which means that your website and your blog and your posts, everything that you do is optimized to be found by search engine crawlers. Use the right keywords, you fill in all your metadata, and that's great, and you might appear near the top of search engine results, the actual results on Google. But as you know, even above that in Google come the ads, the paid ads. And don't you look at them sometimes and say, oh, I wish I could be one of those paid ads on top of Google? Well, guess what? You can do it. The secret weapon is a program from a small vendor called Koios, who I'll talk more about in a second. And they discovered that Google Ads has a special program for nonprofits. Libraries usually qualify. And if you qualify for this Google program, Google will give you $10,000 a month in advertising credits so that you can finally appear at the very, very top in the ads of people's search results. So that's just an amazingly wonderful thing. Of course, applying to make sure that you do qualify with Google and staying in compliance with their rules, which of course they change all the time, is a little bit of work. Okay, it can be a lot of work to keep up with. However, what Koios does is they help you with them. You can hire Koios, and again, they do charge a little bit to take care of everything for this program. They will help you qualify, they will give you a free demo, they'll keep you in compliance, they help you build landing pages, and basically then you can use your $10,000 in free advertising per month. And I kept thinking when I first heard about this that it was $10,000 a year, because even that seems crazy, but no. It's $10,000 a month. And it not only gets people's attention, but it makes you look super tech savvy, because there you are on top of Google where everyone goes to start their searches. So if you would like to learn more about that, I don't have a case study link here, but on the Koios website, there are case studies. And there's this is just a screenshot from their FAQ, and they specifically address databases. How does it work to promote databases? And as I mentioned before, you just need to comply. You need a specific landing page for a database, and Koios will help you build that. And they have had some amazing success in increasing usage of databases and other online resources. And you can even use the ad money to promote your programs and your events and your classes, anything at all that you want to do. So Koios.co. Koios.com is something totally different. Don't go there. But Koios.co will give you lots of information to help you with that. So to quickly wrap up, here's my key takeaways from this section of the webinar. You've probably heard me say about 100 times already, talk about the benefits, not the collections themselves. And I do repeat that because it is true that people need to hear something at least 7 times before it sinks in. So just because you've promoted something one time, don't think that's it. You want to keep at it and mentioning the same things in different places, in different ways, over and over again until it sinks in with your users. Hence my incredible repetition that is on purpose. Okay, so you're also going to think about using stories for content marketing. Definitely you can do a lot with your social media. It's kind of free, but it does cost staff time. So just keep that in mind. If you do social media campaigns, you have to have someone committed to keeping up with them, keeping an eye on them. And again, I know that money is incredibly tight for a lot of libraries, and I really, really do understand that. Yet again, I encourage you to spend a little bit of money for help or for advertising or for special promotions, because just think, if you're spending $100,000 a year on collections, and I say spend $1,000 on promotion, your first thought is probably, oh my gosh, I don't have an extra $1,000 for promotion. Kathy Dempsey is completely crazy. But look at the math. That's only 1% of your budget for collections. If you're spending $100,000 or more for some of you, why would you not spend just 1% of that to make sure that all of those items actually get used and deliver the benefits that you bought them for? Okay, put the promotion where the people are. I already mentioned Google. Social media, different apps. You need to reach people at their point of need. You cannot wait for them to come to you anymore ever. You can't wait for them to join you on social media, to go to their websites. You need to be out there reaching them and pulling them in to join you where you are. You want your messages to be specific and targeted to certain segments. Again, I have various resources, and I can use that word with you because you're library people. I have resources, case studies, articles that I recommended here, and you will be able to access the slides afterward. And I really encourage you, and this is a whole different webinar, but I encourage you to sketch out a plan. Even the most simple marketing plan will help you to not duplicate effort within your library and will help make what you're doing more effective. Conveniently, our next speaker today is going to talk about how to put a basic plan together, how to start to sketch this out. So for that, I'm going to turn this over to John Buehler from NewsBank, and we're going to let him tell you how to start sketching out steps for a plan.
Thanks, Kathy. Hello, everyone, and thanks again for taking time to join us today. As Tammy said at the top, and Kathy just reminded us, my name is John Buehler, and I'm the Chief Marketing Officer here at NewsBank. Prior to joining NewsBank, I cut my teeth as a marketer at both advertising agencies and with companies well known for their B2B or B2C marketing like Callaway Golf or Manpower Staffing. And now I'm here at Manpower Group at NewsBank. So a large part of my job, and certainly the most important part of it, is working with librarians to leverage marketing, to help them build awareness and generate usage for the library's electronic resources, and helping them deliver value within their communities. Kathy has given us a ton of great information and great ideas that can help you build this value in your community. And it's Kathy's last point, sketch out a plan to make the most of your efforts, that I'd like to spend a little bit of time talking about. So it's always really tempting to jump right into executing great ideas, like the ones Kathy discussed. But as the quote says, a goal without a plan is just a wish. So as you get started, it's important to take the time to fully plan your approach, to be sure your ideas, the tactics that you choose, the messages best fit the goals you're aiming to achieve. And if you're not accustomed to developing and executing marketing plans, whether for a specific program in your library or an entire collection like your electronic resources, it can seem a bit daunting. In truth, diving into the marketing pool really doesn't have to be that complicated. It just needs to be well thought out and focused on straightforward goals. A number of librarians with whom we've worked have mentioned the how-to manual that's shown on the screen here. Kathy, they've also mentioned your book. And so many of you may be familiar with it. And it is a good resource. I've actually read it cover to cover, and can help libraries create and prepare to market their electronic resources. I use this as a reference for today, as well as my background and my experience. So at its core, marketing or communicating with your users is an ongoing process, and it can be broken down into 3 general phases: planning your approach, engaging your audience or executing your marketing plan, and assessing the results with an eye on improvement as you move into further programs. One thing it's important to remember is that no plan is perfect. So there's no need to try to perfect every aspect of any plan, but the more important thing is to get a good solid start with good thinking behind it, and then keep moving forward from there. If you start to do that in no time, what I suspect you'll find is that you and your teams will generate so many great ideas and programs to try that you literally won't have time to do them all. And that's even more time to take some time to pull a plan together. So we frequently hear the question, how do I get started? This is frequently the hardest parts because it requires planning. So I'll talk about planning for a minute. It's really important, especially as you develop marketing plans for the first times, to keep it simple. Here are 5 basic steps that can help get the ball rolling. I'll walk through these, and with each I'll give an example of each step from a case study that's actually in the ALA book that I was just showing. So the first step is setting a goal. I know it sounds basic, but it's really hard to know what you're trying to accomplish without verbalizing it, without putting it on paper. So from that case study, an example here, this library was looking to increase the value to their community by generating more awareness in their strong collection of online resources, and importantly, that are available 24/7. So it's setting a single concrete goal for a program, maybe 2, possibly 3, but really no more than that. You don't want to boil the ocean, or the Pacific Ocean. Determine your target. Kathy spent some time talking about the importance of target, and she did talk about this as well. It's difficult to target everybody with one effort, so it's best to reach out to a specific audience with a specific message for them. In the case study I'm referencing, they had a couple of targets, one of which was parents for the 24-hour resources, largely for their school-age kids, and the other was job seekers, who tend to do a lot of that work after hours. So again, the 24-hour resource was there, but it was important to those audiences for different reasons. Then set your strategies. These are the approaches that you think will help you achieve your goal. And again, I encourage you to keep it simple here. There's no need to get overly complicated with it. In the case study I'm referring to, one of them was internal training on their electronic resources to increase the staff's familiarity with how to use them and the problems that they can help their patrons solve. Another was to participate in events outside the library to reach a broader audience and spread the wealth of the library out into the community. So after that, it's selecting tactics. For me, I think this is where it gets fun. These are the killer ideas that are going to bring your program to life. You will find that you can generate 15, 20 potential tactics for an idea, for a plan, but then the hard part is narrowing it down to the ones you think will work the most. And we'll talk about that more in a second. In this case, one of the tactics was a bookmark to promote their key message, and their key message was, "We're up when you are 24 hours a day." And in this particular case, the bookmark was remarkably successful and something that they continue to use today. And lastly, define your measurements. Putting a number to a goal helps you focus on the next steps. One of the metrics that they used in this was one of the quantitative metrics, because they'll be both quantitative and qualitative, was increase the number of unique cardholder hits to the online resources by 10%. Very, very measurable for the library, so they could really have a sense of where they were going. So all in all, these 5 steps provide a fairly simple approach, but it gives you a foundation and needed to focus the marketing effort and to make sure that you stay on task. And finally, put it in writing. When you put it in writing, it makes it real, it turns it into an action plan, and it can be shared with others for feedback during the development, and importantly, to drive engagement internally for the program, get people involved in the program. As we move to engaging, it's really the implementing, and this is where you put your plans into action, and this is the fun part. Now, I would love to tell you that the quote on the right, "Marketing your electronic resources can change your library," comes from me, but I wholeheartedly believe in it. But it actually is a section in the ALA book that I'm referring to. So I'm right there. They had me from hello. So these are some things to consider as you head towards implementation. Setting a realistic timeline is the starting point. One thing I've learned over time, and it's been echoed by many librarians I've spoken with, is that it always takes more time than you think it will to put your plan into action, almost without fail. Especially if marketing is newer to your library, make sure you have a generous timeline. And this is true for a number of reasons, including the reality that you all wear a lot of hats. So when you're setting a timeline, try to take into account not only when you want the program to run, but also what will be competing for your time and what other programs you have going that will need your time and the attention of your staff. Talking of staff and staff involvement, it really takes a village to pull some of these programs off because you're looking for in-library involvement with your patrons. And everybody needs to understand the plan and have the knowledge to make the plan happen effectively. So some early questions to ask in planning here are, what staff should be involved? Will they need training on the resources? Things like that to make sure that you're internally prepared. Messaging creative, this is where you can have some fun. Kathy had some great examples earlier, but as she said, this is a chance to show people how their lives will be better, easier, more fun by taking advantage of the resources, by benefiting from them. And to remember, use those real life stories. Those are the WIFM stories that she was talking about. Seek input from your staff and from your target audience group, and I think frequently many of those will be your volunteers. Finalize your tactics. This is that narrowing down. This is taking the list of 16, 17 things and really figuring out what you think will have the most impact, what materials need to be produced to bring the ideas to life. Will an in-library promotion get the job done, or are there other places where you can reach your target audience? But again, this is the time to narrow it down and not try to boil the ocean. Try a couple of things. And then the little but really important things, and these sound basic, and they are, but they can also derail a great plan. First is make sure the resources you're promoting are visible and easy to find. If you're creating a plan to promote the electronic resources you already have, part of the reason you may need to increase the awareness of them is that people may not be able to find them where they are. If that is the case, adjust the visibility of your resources online, and then don't be afraid to put your marketing efforts front and center to your target audience, and that is at the circulation desk, in your newsletter, on the homepage of your site, by every computer station. Don't be bashful. Go out and be bold. And in just a few minutes, we'll share some examples of that. So on to the last phase. These are the simple ones, but they're in truth some of the more important. The assessing phase, taking a good, honest look at how the program performed so that you can improve and be even more effective the next time around. So the key questions: were the measurement goals achieved? Again, that's fairly easy. Some will be qualitative, some will be quantitative, but again, assess, did you pick the right measures? Were there measures that you should consider that you hadn't? What worked and what didn't? This is the time to look in the mirror and really figure it out. As I said earlier, not everything is going to work. Not everything is going to provide the desired impact, and that's fine. Drop the ideas that don't work. Develop some new ones, some new ideas to test. And again, feedback here is important, both from your staff and from your audience, because I think everybody here knows when asked, people are usually generally very willing to let you know exactly what they think. And then last, let people know what happened. Share the successes as well as the failures internally. In addition to the transparency, it helps build momentum and enthusiasm for the next efforts. So one last thought, remember that if you have a challenge, somebody has probably faced that challenge before. So the mantra here is borrow with pride. Adapt programs that have been done by others for your specific situation. The ALA book has a number of really, really great case study examples that can be used as thought starters or even as templates for programs you may be planning or considering. So the examples I've referenced from the case study in the book, from that case study, we thought was particularly relevant for today's discussion. And it's worth reading. And at the end of the presentation, there's a link both to the book, and from that link, you can also get to that specific case study. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Jen Trammell, who will discuss some real-world examples of how we partnered with a public library in Ohio to help them develop and bring a program to life.
Great, thank you, John. So let's take a look at how these tactics that Kathy covered and the plan development that John covered came together at Delaware County District Library. This is outside of Columbus, Ohio. And they took a step back and looked at the big picture of the World War I centennial back in November. So here at the top, this is what they posted on the website. Delaware County District Library has come together as a system to commemorate those who fought in World War I. Through book discussions, local history walks, and expert speakers, we hope to pay tribute to a generation. So let's take a minute to reverse engineer the marketing campaign that Delaware County District Library did. And the important thing here is cross-promotion. You're going to see how they touched on multiple library resources in one campaign. So looking at the big picture, the goal was to leverage the World War I centennial to engage the community with local library branches. And the strategy they used was integrating World War I centennial into the library programs that they were going to do anyway. And then we'll look at how they promoted those programs using a variety of marketing platforms. And ultimately, they came down to tactics like speaker events, book club, and then using platforms like social media and in-library promotion. So the library started by creating a main web page to host details about the World War I centennial events and the relevant information there. They had events, recognized the 100th anniversary of Armistice Day with special scheduled speakers, and they could have stopped there, but the library really looked at this holistically, and they thought, how can these programs align with everything else we're doing? So book club is happening this month, as it always does. Let's make sure that those books align with World War I and specifically the aspects of the war that our speakers are talking about. And for those different events, they had individual event web pages. And you can see here how the library took this a step further. They felt it was really natural to align this initiative with the library's electronic resources. And as you can see, they posted links to relevant content on the World War I page. So there were specific events like Archduke assassination all the way through to the armistice. And down toward the bottom here, you can see World War I on the Ohio home front. So this was a way to localize what they were doing and provide firsthand accounts from Ohioans who participated in World War I and the influence of that participation. So not only did they do that on the main page for World War I Centennial, they also did that on each event page. And this is really important because a patron may not come to that main World War I page. They may end up directly on this event page because they followed a link in the newsletter or they followed a link from a social media post. So they wanted to make sure they put relevant articles from the library's electronic resources in multiple places. And you'll see they customized this a little bit down toward the bottom. It says Local History Night. This focused on the end of the war. So the articles that they selected from the library's NewsBank resource were focusing on Armistice Day. Now the library looked at the available marketing platforms, of course, one of those being social. And they promoted events on social media. This is an example from the library's Facebook page. But they said, hold on a second, let's not forget about those good guys, the traditional media. So this was an article that the library collaborated with the Delaware Gazette on. And they also promoted what was happening to mark the remembrance at the library. And they did that via traditional media. Inside the library, they had signage, displays, and posters throughout. Then finally, NewsBank helped Delaware County by creating a handout that was shared at the events. They were also able to set out copies at the reference desk for people to take. So if they couldn't come to an event, but they were interested in the topic, they still had a way to get to some great information. This is such a good example of starting with the big picture. How can we engage the community? Then selecting a timely topic, the World War I Centennial, and then identifying tactics that would help them to accomplish this goal. So employing these different tactics enabled the library to promote multiple things at once: books, events, and electronic resources. So as you think about the many items in your library, how can cross-promotion bring attention to all of those different things? And chances are you have an opportunity to do this right around the corner because we know Black History Month is coming up and you already have programs and events in the works. So let's start thinking, how can information from your library's electronic resources enhance those events and programs you already have planned for Black History Month? And here's some ideas that we've generated and that other librarians have shared with us. You can add links to relevant articles on web pages or registration confirmation pages, just like Delaware County did with World War I. During the event, you could make a point of highlighting electronic resources that provide information on that topic. Like Delaware County, you can create a handout that can be used during the event and kept at the reference desk, even put out on tables in the library. And you could consider printing a highly relevant article and then distributing it at the event. All of those are different ways to use your e-resources in conjunction with what's happening at the library. And Kathy, you touched on this a little bit, but tell us more about why right now, here at the beginning of the year, January, is such a great time to be talking about the library.
Well, yeah, the library has so many fabulous things all year, but I have talked to a number of marketers who have been really successful, especially in January, with promoting librarians' expertise, holding classes to teach people how to use the new gadgets that they just got for Christmas. I myself got a new gadget and I don't know what to do with it yet. And if my local library were offering a program on that, I would totally be there. This is especially useful for seniors. If you take the program to them, if you go to maybe senior centers or care homes, a lot of them really want to know more about technology, but they're not sure how to learn. So librarians can take classes to them. You can also make some short videos, some basic how-to videos about how to do basic things like even download ebooks or how to use your new Kindle, things like that. And again, I'll say it for the 8th time, promote the benefits that sometimes people don't even have to go out to use the library materials. And I would imagine something like that would be kind of popular in the state of Washington in January or February.
Good point.
If I may, I
Thanks,
actually want to echo that the state library held what we called the Gadget Menagerie. It was a fairly long running program, a year or so, 2 years for our projects. That's a pretty good time, where we went around to various libraries and did these classes that Kathy was just talking about. We taught senior citizens how to use their tablets or e-readers and the like, download books, practically whatever device was there. We went through the apps themselves, how to use the app in general, and then would spend one-on-one time with everyone to help them make sure they got set up and understood everything. It was very successful.
Great, thank you for pointing that out. I know we're about 5 minutes from the top of the hour, and we have about 10 minutes more worth of content before we get to some of those questions. Tammy, are there some announcements that you need to make?
We're going to continue to record, and so those of you who have to leave right at 10 o'clock, you won't miss anything because when we post this, you'll be able to hear the entire session again. So we'll go ahead and keep going because this is really fascinating, interesting things. And then we'll stop right when you guys are finished, and then when we post it, people can come back and finish. But go ahead and finish because this is interesting.
Thanks, Tammy. We have some examples we definitely want to make sure we get to here. So we've spent the majority amount of the time talking about promoting e-resources to your users. But remember, these resources are really valuable in your daily life and work as well. So it's not only the patrons who benefit. Other librarians have told us that they really turn to their e-resources even when it comes to answering reference questions. You know, someone's at the desk and they know the right place to go to get this information, and they share that with patrons. That's another way of promoting your electronic resources. A librarian had brought up to us that her e-resources really help book clubs build context around their discussions. And John, I know you've been working with libraries on that. Do you want to expand on it?
Yeah, sure. In talking to actually my local library back in Chicago, where I'm from, we were discussing a number of ways that they could use their resources to help their growing support of book clubs. Book clubs are such a big deal right now and probably going forward. And the library was trying to figure out ways that they could enhance the book club experience, enhance the leaders' experience, things like that. And what they did was they turned to resources like NewsBank for author bios. And backgrounds and where they come from, what else they'd written, not necessarily a book list of that author's titles, but more what's in the author's mind. Comparing various perspectives of the book found in different reviews of the book in different papers. And even helping set the historical context, as Jen talked about, and really understanding more about the time period in which the book was covering. So there's a number of ways that you can enhance individual groups almost on an ad hoc basis based on the knowledge of how you can use the electronic resources.
Definitely. That context around time and place is really important. You can use your e-resources to stay current on issues that are important to your community and patrons. And one thing that we've set up in NewsBank resources is the ability to do an alert. So you do a search, get the kinds of results you're looking for, and then set the alert to say, hey, when more things like this come up, I want to know about it. And that information will be delivered directly to your inbox. You can also use your e-resources to inform your events or program calendar. And Jeremy, this is similar to what you were talking about. Tie this into your computer instruction classes. So not only are you learning how to use a device, and librarians and patrons are working together on that, use that opportunity to go into one of the library's resources to learn how to use that resource at the same time. And to Kathy's point about the weather, even if you're renovating or closing your physical building for a holiday, for example, we know e-resources are available 24/7 and a great way to keep patrons engaged.
So at the beginning, Jen mentioned ideas of the types of resources that are available to help you with your marketing efforts from vendors like us. So as we mentioned, our passion really stems from helping all of you succeed with your patron groups, with your users. And in the case of the Washington State Library NewsBank offer, we set up a resources center on our website just for Washington libraries. It's a secret link, but if you call us and sign up, we'll send it to you. There you'll find the links to sign up if you haven't already, a getting started guide, which we put together, and I'll touch on in just a moment. There's a couple of different social media kits which have ready-to-use posts for the resources in the trial collection, as well as example posts from a number of our customers, including some from Washington. In addition, there are a variety of web buttons and product descriptions that will help you promote the resources inside the library. And then there's a couple other handy resources that you'll have to go to the page and check out.
Well, it's such a great way to get started, and you don't have to make any of this from scratch.
Right.
Our resources are here to support you, as other vendors do as well.
Yep. So in regards to the getting started guide I just mentioned, there are a few actions that libraries have told us are very important in successfully driving awareness and use of their new resources or their existing resources. We've sort of listened and bottled them up into a three-step approach for sharing with other libraries and other customers. The first step is building visibility, something our customer success group actually helps libraries with every day. This kind of thing includes product descriptions and web buttons and really getting them placed in the right spots, the most findable locations on your websites. There's a couple examples of these.
Yeah, let's go ahead and take a look at those. And these are from Washington libraries. As we do this, we're going to hit some tips that you can implement. They've done such a good job, haven't they? So back to Kathy's point about avoiding library lingo. In this case, when you're placing your electronic resources on your web page, you want to avoid the term database. In the industry, we know what that means, but the average person, especially students, they don't know the term and they don't know all that it encompasses and the great value that hides behind it. So instead, we see libraries using terms like online resources, digital services, and in the case of Bellingham Public Library, digital library. Whatcom County Library System does a really nice job of this. See how their website is organized with user-oriented language. So they say, I want to, and then list some specific tasks that take people to relevant resources. Another tip is to post resources in multiple places. Your patrons may not know exactly where to go. So by placing links in multiple areas of your site, you can help them from different starting points. For example, San Juan Island Library lists online resources in multiple places, and we noticed you can find NewsBank under both digital media and online resources. So those are some examples from your peers in Washington. Here's Lopez Island Library. They use the term the digital hub. And again, when it comes to multiple entry points from your homepage even, North Olympic Library System has 3 ways to access online resources from their homepage. At the top of the page, they have a tab for online resources. Then as you scroll down, you see sections like this one on the right that's featured library services, and it provides another entry point to online resources. Then finally, rotate your online resources in your featured resource section or in your rotating banner on your homepage. And this is an example from Snow Isle Libraries. Use your homepage to promote some of those lesser known services. For example, most patrons know you have books and magazines, but focus on what they may not know you have. So John, what's the next step?
The next step, John, is driving awareness. You know, we've talked a lot about this, both Kathy and I concentrated on some of these aspects. But in the end, you will know your audience best, in part because you will gain feedback from them. So use the vehicles that will best reach the particular group you're targeting. And we talked about a number of examples through the webinar, but here are a couple more.
So in addition to social media, we've worked with libraries to create bookmarks. And this was an example like the case study that John shared. This bookmark can be used at the reference desk, it can be placed on tables in the library. So even patrons who are there for something else are exposed to resources online. Here's another example from a community college we worked with in Alaska. And a lot of times we see there's something physical in the library that coincides with something online. And that's the case here. They had physical copies of their local newspaper in the library, but you might be only able to relate to this. They only kept the last week or so worth of papers. So we worked together to create a shelf talker that pointed students to archived editions of the paper on the library's website. And of course, don't forget your newsletter. So many libraries are putting out great newsletters. In print and online, they've really come a long way, especially in the last 10 years. So remember to utilize that space to talk about the library's electronic resources. It's a great ad to use in a column along the side.
And then the last step, this relates to the staff point in the implementation parts, is webinars and tutorials. And this is really about making sure that the staff is familiar with the resources. For the Washington State program, we held a webinar, a NewsBank overview webinar that Jenna actually helped host in November. Those recordings are on the site that you'll see in a second, as well as a series of how-to videos for tips on using the products, but also for sharing with patrons. Just pick up the links. So that's, those are really things about how to use them. And as well, we can help them understand how they're being used by the end users.
Exactly. And we certainly want our library partners to be successful and provide patrons with the information they need. So when it comes to the type of information patrons are looking for, we've done some analysis and wanted to share that insight with you. Each of these topics could be a library program or event, for example, and this came directly from search logs. We know that people in Washington are looking for information on climate change, cybersecurity, the death penalty, which has been an important topic there over the last couple of months with political changes, dementia, depression, fake news, gun control, marijuana legalization, and video game violence. And you can find relevant information on all of these topics in your library's e-resources, just like Delaware County did with that World War I program. NewsBank created an easy way to do that with resources like Access World News. You can see here on the home screen, suggested topics splits up millions of articles into these easy-to-use categories. And it's full of information that aligns with what you're doing in the library, whether that's virtual reality, digital literacy, or let's take an initiative like Living Well, which the Washington State Library is focusing on. And that can mean a lot of different things. That could be financial health and well-being, but let's take it a little more literally for today's purposes. And if we click this health category, we'll see that it brings up a list of aligned topics. And you could go in so many different directions depending on your program. But for today's purposes, let's take the example of telemedicine. This is something that's becoming, ever more important and an increasing option for us with our family's health. So by clicking on telemedicine, we're automatically sent in 2 clicks to search results, relevant information about our topic. And you can either take an individual article there or this list of dynamic results and use that as part of your programming. Your account representative can walk you through exactly how to do that if you have a particular topic in mind. And this is our great team dedicated to working with Washington libraries. You'll have the slides and their contact information. So before we wrap up today, we want to make sure you have the information on the Washington State Library and NewsBank partnership. Your library has the opportunity to opt into this offer for the next year. Many of you have already done that. And over that time, we'll be providing you unique insights about how your library's patrons are using information. Other librarians have told us, sometimes it's hard to know exactly what patrons need. They're working on their devices individually inside the library. With remote access, you may never come into contact with them. And our usage analysis can help to demystify that. One more special thing to tell you about, and this is coming up, a special reception for Washington librarians at ALA. It's on Sunday, January 27th at the Sheraton Grand in Seattle. And this is really a casual open house that you're invited to be part of. You can chat with our team and get training on NewsBank resources if that would be helpful to you and your colleagues. You're welcome to stop by anytime between 1 and 3 p.m. I would say definitely be there at 1:45. That's when Washington State Librarian Cindy Aiden takes the floor. And I'm hearing there's going to be some delicious goodies there for you.
Don't spoil the surprise.
All right, that's all I'll say. So we are certainly looking forward to meeting with you guys in Seattle in the next couple of weeks.
And all of you should be receiving some more information about that, either from NewsBank or from Washington State Library.
Good. So let's go ahead and get to those questions. Tammy, I'm having a little bit of trouble seeing the chat questions that have come through. So if you can field those, that would be great.
So the only one I have so far is a question about the slides, and Jeremy has offered to make a PDF of the slides. So if people want to use them, I'm assuming during a staff meeting or something, would that be okay?
Yeah, that would be fine by us.
Okay. And the other thing I want to point out is you had the resource page for the NewsBank resources. And
yes.
We have actually made a link for that on the Washington State Library training page under our database helps and tips. There's a drop down, and the NewsBank one is right there. It has all the information about how to sign up for NewsBank if your library hasn't already done that, as well as that whole resources page that you posted on your slide.
There you go, Tammy.
Thank you.
There you
go.
We're on top of it around here. Are there any other questions from anyone? I know we're about 10 after, so some people have probably already left to go help people on the desk. If not, I want to make sure I thank Kathy, John, and Jennifer. This has been really informative. This has been really, really well done. Thank you so much. And like I said, we're recording this. We're going to post it on our website sometime either later today or tomorrow.
An email will go out when it goes up.
When it goes up and it's available, and it lives there forever. So you guys will be famous for the rest of your life on the Washington State Library training page.
Yeah. All right.
So I want to let people know you also talked about one of the things that you have discovered in doing your research in that the data that Washington State residents are looking for. One of them was fake news. And
Correct.
That ties in really well because next month, our first Tuesdays will actually be a librarian in the Seattle Public Library. Dai Zhang will present on fake news and how librarians can help their customers navigate what's often a confusing and frustrating world of information. So thank you for that fantastic tie-in.
You're welcome. We didn't even plan that.
Will you send us the invite?
Tammy, did you see Will's note? He only sent it to us, so we should probably send that out to all attendees.
Okay, yeah, there's the link right there for the NewsBank drop down that's on our training page. So we'll go ahead and post that so that people can see that for everybody if they want to go there. So was there anything else, Kathy, John, or Jennifer, that you wanted to say before we close out today? Or
I think that's it from us. We just want to say thank you so much for inviting us to be part of First Tuesdays, and a special thank you to Kathy Dempsey for sharing her expertise.
Thanks, Kathy, for joining us.
Well, you're all very welcome. Thanks for having me, and thanks to everyone for listening. And I just want to encourage you to just start small. Don't worry about doing everything that we talked about. This is very doable, and if you have any questions or need any more help, contact me or the folks at NewsBank or the people at your state library. We're here for you even after the webinar. So thank you all.
fantastic.
Absolutely.
Okay, if that is everything, everyone's saying thank you, and it's from Yakima, which is across the mountain and probably very cold today, I would imagine. But on behalf of all of us here at Washington State Library and the NewsBank crew who did the presentation today, thank you and have a great rest of your day.